Good morning, good morning, good morning once again. And we are here, as you can see behind me, you can see the people here. We are doing a tour with the Ministry of Environment. The minister is Honorable Cozier Frederick. You will hear from him a little later this morning as we do a site visit tour of in Deux, the much talked about Deux. Those of you who've been listening, who've been talking about it in whatever way, a little later, he'll also give you some footage of the area. But you know, there's been a lot of talk about to see and hear for yourself. So this is where we are in the Jobash area. A little hill to climb, nothing much to climb, but the delegation, the MMC, and everybody else behind this very, very important project has been working extensively to ensure that we have the right material for the construction of the international airport. Just last week, we had a site visit of the international airport, and that was well attended by members of cabinet and the various media houses here in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Lots and lots of questions raised by people, environmentalists, normal citizens who want to know more about the international airport, the Dioboash area. I have with me Simeon Albert. Simeon, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning.
Good morning. I was telling all listeners the much talked about Dioboash. It has become a subject in all spheres. But it's important, as you know, the Prime Minister likes to actually bring the media on site, bring the public, invite people to see and to hear, so that whenever we talk on radio and otherwise, we know what we are talking about. And it's important that we, give the true information, to the public, to the listening public and the viewing public. And it's not anything to hide. You can see it live on Facebook, on YouTube, whatever means you want to watch it. And then to say actually what is happening. He doesn't do things behind our back, as it were.
I do agree, Steve. And I myself have taken a walk through since I came in this morning to really understand what is being done here, and so far I can see that tremendous investment has gone into the preliminary work in terms of site preparation, ensuring that they can mitigate against any erosion of soil erosion. Particularly, some of the concerns people had was to speak about the fact that the road was getting mud and things like that, and I observed that they built a wall to prevent any mud from going to the road. They even put an area for beautification, so you almost wouldn't even know that this activity is taking place there when you are passing
You would think it's a hotel
on the main road.
we're
Additionally,
going to get
yes,
let's folks up front. Okay, so let's join.
Here at the proposed site for the establishment of the Dominica International Airport Stonefield aggregate quarry and crushing site, which are proposed to supply aggregate materials required for the construction phase of the Dominica International Airport project. As with any project proposed by any proponent or the government in the Commonwealth of Dominica, based on the scale and scope of potential impacts, and environmental and social impact assessment would be necessitated in keeping with the Physical Planning Act. In this case, the Physical Planning Act necessitates an ESIA for such a development, being the quarrying and extraction of construction materials. Insofar as there is a proposal for that development, the ESIA will define and recommend mitigation measures that can address all of the potential impacts in keeping with international standards and the national legislative framework. These have been built into the process from the onset and based on the vast experience of the developer and the contractor. So today I will speak to the specific mitigation measures that have been implemented on site thus far. To start with the retaining wall. Bearing in mind, geotechnical studies were done, and based on the results, it was found that the site would be unsafe for the equipment and personnel without the establishment of the retaining wall. So the retaining wall firstly serves that function in terms of safety of personnel, equipment and installations. Secondarily, the retaining wall also serves to complement our on-site drainage system in controlling the number of discharge points to 2 points, okay, that you can observe through the 2 culverts leaving the wall. These culverts, of course, join onto culverts located on the main road and then flow along the natural drainage course into the riparian zone. You will observe that to mitigate against any potential sedimentation or turbidity increase in the riparian zone, on site we have established 3 sedimentation ponds that have been concreted recently. The function of the sedimentation pond is to remove any sediment within the surface flow before it enters the riparian zone. It will do so through several functions. Firstly, through reducing the velocity of the water, and secondly, through trapping the sediment. So we reduce the velocity, we trap the sediment, we reduce the turbidity, we improve the clarity of the water, of course in keeping with the tourism product that Concord is known for. So you can look to the retaining wall, you can look to the establishment of the 3 sedimentation ponds and the concreting of on-site drains, thereby establishing the on-site drainage system as some key measures in terms of protecting our riparian zone. Now, to mitigate against the activity of the trekking of mud onto the roadway, which will make the road very unsafe for motorists and pedestrians alike, you can observe to my rear, we have the establishment of a wheel wash bay. It is designed in a somewhat concave manner such that the trucks will enter this area, they'll be washed, and any dirt, mud, or particulate matter, fines, etc. will be washed out and then transported to the sedimentation pond so that they can be trapped, and then we'll have a clear flow entering the drainage system. So as required, as the site, if the project is approved, expands, we will establish additional wheel wash areas in keeping with international standards. Another measure that will be in place on site is the establishment of check dams. This one has not yet been initiated, but the check dams will see the construction of several gabion baskets lined with geotextile. They will be located at the outlets or beyond the outlets of the main road culverts. So this would further reduce any sedimentation within the flow from the main road culvert outlet before it reaches the riparian zone. And there will be several layers of these gabion check dams. Okay? So these are the major measures that have been implemented thus far in terms of the retaining wall, sedimentation ponds, okay, and the wheel wash area. And there are additional measures that colleagues will also speak to, such as the buffer zone, which is very important in terms of maintaining it to preserve our biodiversity and mitigate impacts in that regard. But I just want to say to the general public that MMCD and CR5 are committed to following international standards and national legislation as it relates to environmental, social, safety and health impacts, and will continue to work with local experts and residents to get all the recommendations we need to address these matters. Thank you.
Forestry Division, attached to the Protection and Conservation Unit. To date, the activities of the Forestry Division have been focused on runoff erosion, reducing erosion, runoff and sedimentation, and visual impact of the quarry. The quarry boundaries with the Northern Forest Reserve at the top, and to date there's a buffer zone which is 50 meters. So we provide a 50-meter buffer zone between the quarry and the forest reserve. We have given technical advice to the developers with the implementation of sediment ponds to be done on site. We have also given the specific measurements for the sediment ponds, which is minimum 2 meters wide and 3 meters deep. This enables for easy access, easy cleaning access of the sediment ponds. Also, it was advised to the developers regular maintenance be done of the sediment ponds, that is to remove the sediments, the silt, in a timely manner. We cannot give a specific timeline as to say perhaps 2 weeks to remove the sediment, but with frequent monitoring, the sediments will be cleaned. Also, we encourage the developers to do terracing on the southwest end of the quarry. The terracing will be done with a gradient so that the water can flow back to the cliff and the water can drain out through the drains, and you can divert the water to the existing sediment ponds on site. And with frequent monitoring, if there needs to be an increase in sediment ponds, then it will be done on site to minimize the amount of sediment erosion going down into the pool, into the river, sorry. Yeah, thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody, and the listeners on various mediums. I'm just happy to be here this morning at the Deux site. This site is an area that has been quarried before, back in the 1970s. And in moving forward with the existing works for the international airport, the Ministry of Environment, we're taking this responsibility very seriously to ensure that all of the resources and the energy and the mitigation measures are put in place to ensure that the integrity of the land space remain intact. We are very mindful that there's a public concern as to what's happening here within this space, the Deux quarry space. And so our response to the concerns is to connect with the developer and to have them to understand that there are scientifically proven methods of keeping this space intact while we do the quarrying process. The advice from the Division of Forestry is very, very important in this process, because we are on the borders of a national park, and also we are bordered by a major river, and on the other side of the river we have an indigenous community, and we also have residents downstream. So we're taking this intervention very, very seriously. One of the things we're mindful of is that the fact remains that this area has the best quality material that is needed for moving the project forward. The assessments have been done, and this comes from the previous intervention in 1979, when this place was quarried to resurface parts of the Douglas Charles Airport. We are mindful that when we do interventions like this, when there's quarrying, not to be confused with mining, by the way, when there's quarrying done for material, that there will be environmental impacts, and some of them can be very, very visible. The river being brown, being dirty, the causeways being muddy, but we are mindful that we are doing this development, mindful that we can do the mitigation methods. No one remembers this space after 1979, because the forest took over. The developers at the time backfilled this entire space, and that's why this soil is very, very loose, and we forgot that it was an active quarry for some time, because a secondary forest took over. In the same way, we are moving forward to ensure that the work that we do from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry in particular will rehabilitate this entire space. So we're speaking to terracing, we're speaking to using the endemic species in that space to reforest that space, and it is very important that we do this. We are very mindful that the public outcry is important, and we have to speak to this thing that is important as citizens of our country to question what is happening within our space. But we're also very happy and very delighted to tell folks that we are doing those measures to ensure that the integrity of this space can be sustained for future generations. So a generation ago we had this space excavated for quarrying purposes, and now we're doing the very same thing. The developer has come on board. We had a meeting last year. The Prime Minister was present, and because he had a concern on behalf of the citizens as well as to what has been happening here. And this and many other meetings have been held for the last couple of weeks to ensure that the developer and the contractor and we at the Division of Forestry keep on doing the work that we are entrusted to do. We are very mindful that big development like this can affect daily lives, can affect the way people view the development. But we're also mindful that quarrying has been part of the Dominica landscape for some time. We have quarries on the west coast. We have quarries along the northeast coast, and we're hoping that when we do this well, once we do this well, that we'll be able to extract the material that is needed, and also have a space that will be reforested, and that nature would take its course. So we're happy to be here and happy to hear the concerns for the citizens. But I'm also concerned as a citizen myself that the scientific method of dealing with these situations has to be very, very clear. We ought not to be emotional about these issues. And as a citizen of this country, I get very, very concerned when people get emotional and very reactive. Because there are those among us here, even here today, who are more than able to participate and help in the solutions. But I see personalities that is only coming forward when there appears to be a problem, and try in various ways to magnify that problem. And so we are the Division of Forestry and the Ministry of Environment. We're happy to have this conversation. The conversations or a roadside conversation as a technical person, a scientifically trained person, is not something that we should have. This meeting should be in an office space where we sit and we rationalize the way forward. These ideas of standing on the side of a road and being emotional and using our experience over time to qualify why we should be there and jumping around and prancing, I think it is sad for our country. It's really, really sad for citizens to behave that way. And so we are mindful that we can have this conversation moving forward, that we can sit in as civilized people to have this conversation and to bring all players on board. We have, for the last few weeks, brought the contractor and developer to the table, and to ensure that they do the protocols and all the necessary work that has to be done as per the law, but also mindful that there's the heritage and culture and livelihoods that are also being affected. And that is beyond law and other commitments. So we are at this table to ensure that we can get the best for this country, and that when we balance development and natural resource use, that we can do it in a proper way. I dare say that from the Ministry of Environment end, and from me as the minister, I'm open to every discussion, to any discussion, which is scientifically sound, which balance development and extraction of resources, and the best minds can concede to ensure that we have a smooth development of a project that is vital to our country, but also to use the materials within our space to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, and those who spoke before. As mentioned earlier, our objective here this morning, and the request of the Honourable Prime Minister, is to show the media and the members of the public the measures that have been implemented, the mitigation measures that have been implemented since his visit to the Deux site in late December. So we've heard from the forestry official, we've heard from Mr. Benoit from the project, and the members of the media who are here. You are welcome to pose any follow-up questions that you may have. I've also arranged for Mr. Benoit to take you around the site as part of your live broadcast, so he can show you these mitigation points that are being implemented.
Mr. Minister, good morning all. Mr. Minister, what happens to this area after quarrying has ceased? What are the long-term plans by your government?
So the plan for this area is to ensure that there's reforestation, that we bring back some of the endemic species that are here. We actually have nurseries that will provide that material to the developer. We're setting up one now in London area, and we have a few across the country, one in Bells and one in the Pocas area, to ensure that we can reforest and help the land, the forested areas get back into play. So we have this plan as part of the Division of Forestry's response to the extraction of the material in that space.
Also, Mr. Minister, you spoke of concerns, but you did not outline the concerns that the general public would have had. So maybe you can help us to understand the concerns.
Yeah, some of the concerns I've heard from being on the ground, that it's affecting the river downstream and livelihoods. Also that there seems to be a mining operation for some other type of material apart from the aggregate that we are doing right now. And I think these are the major two contentions. And I think just driving through and seeing sort of a scar on the land, I think people get emotional about this as well. And that's why we're saying it's important to have people understand the work that we've been doing here in the past couple of weeks to ensure that we can extract in a good way, but also have the plan to reforest and ensure the integrity of the land remains intact.
Should we experience heavy rainfall, severe rainfall, will this area still be protected?
From what I've realized and from the advice from the Division of Forestry, with the sedimentation ponds, with the gibbon baskets, it is able to contain. But Steve, as a matter of fact, even before this quarry, when there's heavy rainfall, the river would be murky. And so you can imagine that there will be some runoff from this space. And while we have the gibbon baskets and the sedimentation ponds, that we'll also see a bit of that happening throughout heavy rainfalls as well. And this happens to every river on the island. And when heavy rain falls, and this happens because of even bad practices many years ago. We cut down the forest for banana industry, we cut off the forest for building homes. Some people have private lands that the government have limited control over. So all of these are things that happen for a long time, but in this case here, we're stepping in to ensure that we can help to regulate what's happening, to ensure that the integrity of the lands remain intact.
Also, Mr. Minister, you did say that in reference to some of the handful groups that are talking or having concerns, that they sometimes can be very emotional. Are you saying that they have never written to your government asking of a talk, one-on-one with your department?
Well, my ministry, the ministry I happen to lead for the last 6 years, we have a come in anytime. We do have a radio show people can call in, and we have access. We give people access to our spaces, and it's unfortunate that we don't have anything in formal writing that says that we need to have this conversation. Think about it, and we see sort of the narrative on the, like we see in local parlance, on the Kote Shime, which is I think is not a good way to deal with issues that affects the national conversation. And so we are still because they can also assist us in making this project better.
Well, what do you make of yesterday's statement by one of our citizens yesterday?
When you're an icon, you're a legend, and that if you speak truth to power, that you will have a following. I in my mind, as a citizen, and Nasir is also. There are many other issues that I would love Nasir to address and work with me as well. It's really strange that it's happening with this one, and maybe that's as a start, and that he can join to have this conversation with the public as to how we can keep the cultural and heritage integrity of this country intact while doing development, and maybe we'll do an album one of those days, a nice solid Kalinago album. Because they are also to a normal sense and to get people to be part and parcel of the movement.
There are suggestions that government's policy on the environment is lacking. How much can you tell us with regard?
Well, government's policy is very clear. Since Hurricane Maria, the total forest destroyed. And again, here's one of the issues. Some of the folks who are talking about this particular area were never interested in helping to reforest the country after all the forest was knocked down. They were not interested. So doing, we have to be able to use the resources you have and also use it wisely. So while we're extracting this to do a major project like the airport, we are mindful that it will take from the lands. And we have to be able to understand why we took this initiative in the first place.
Any possible questions from us?
Why not?
Please? All right, that'd be nice.
Come to the camera.
I need the mic. Turn. No problem. Good morning, Mr. Minister and the rest of the group. I'm very happy that you came out. I suppose in default of the Prime Minister or something. It's the Environment Minister. Okay.
You should know that, right?
Thank you for the education. But let's get back to some basics, because there's something for the airport. How much materials do we need for the airport?
Chlorine for the
Mining is a generic term. Quarrying is specific to rocks. So it's mining. Let's not throw smoke in our eyes. We're mining for the airport aggregate. How much aggregates do we need for the airport? And is that the only source? And is the economic advantage of taking it here overwhelming that we can do the scarring that you spoke? Technically, when technical people see a scar, we know there is something under the scar. So first question, how much are we going to take out of here? And how do we justify, with those numbers, opening an entirely new mine for that volume? Second technical question, what type of material that we need for an airport? Runway that is built millions of times over the world, that we need it specifically here, and not from Coliho, not from Asolda, not from Pigwa, at Wadiab, that we need to find it here. What is the cost? Economic cost, resource cost, environmental cost of Mr. Benoit, we speak about sedimentation tank. What are the parameters used to design this sedimentation tank? What are the technical parameters? How much flow we're speaking about? How much sediments you need to settle? I would like to see the engineering calculation for sedimentation tanks. I actually have done a few sedimentation tanks in my life. And I would like to assist in seeing whether that you have done the right work. Mr. Frederick spoke, Honorable Frederick spoke about assisting. And he also spoke about bringing in, or one of them spoke about bringing in the contractors and the developer, which kind of sounds odd, knowing the little I know about our laws when it comes to a project like that. It sounds like doing it from the cart rather than the horse. We should not be bringing in the contractor. The contractor and developer should be coming here. It's an airport proposal. Well, I suppose designed airport proposal, which would have decided where we needed material. I saw a drill rig up there. You should be able to tell me what depth are the rocks that you're going to find, what layers are in between, and all the technical issues. We see a scar. We want to know what's below the scar.
Thank you, Mr. Libra.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Bielan.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Benoit and Mr. Libla, and thank you to everybody else for coming. Thank you for your question. If I don't respond to any direct sub-question, just refresh and I will speak to it. Okay, firstly, just to state that there is a fundamental difference between mining and quarrying. Mining would specify or focus more on the extraction of metals, whereas quarrying would be more focused on the extraction of construction material. Mining would more generally include chemical processes to obtain, again, metals, whereas in the process of quarrying is very straightforward, where you use basic crushing and screening to obtain aggregate for construction processes. Okay, and just to say also, one of the final differences, and significant differences in fact, in terms of mining and quarrying, is that with mining you have to go to a very great depth in order to obtain what we refer to as ore. So you don't go mining for stones, okay? You go mining for ore, which is of a metallic nature, okay? But when we refer to quarrying, it's normally open pit, and we don't have to go so deep. So those are the two distinctions, okay? In terms of the quantity, the Dominica International Airport project necessitates a volume of approximately 400,000 cubic meters of aggregate of varying qualities and different quantities. Okay, we can have subsequent discussions, Mr. Libla, upon verification of data from the contractor to provide with further details, but that is the general figure, which of course, in keeping with project adjustments and realities, may increase or decrease, okay? So this is a guiding figure. In terms of location, presently the project has quarries located at Anzime and at Crapo Hall Estate with a crushing plant at Hatton Garden. Okay, so in terms of the quality of material, that will be based on the geology of the area, and you can, of course, as has been alluded to through previous speakers, conduct scientific testing to determine the features of that material. And based on a very internationally experienced firm which we have engaged to do the soil testing and geotechnical testing, we have assurance that the quality of the material here is of the highest order, of the desired order, and hence we are coming here. Moving further afield from this location, I just give a typical example. Moving from Crapo Hall, which is in close proximity to this site, to here, is already having significant cost implications for the project in terms of transportation, in terms of resources, which would include fuel, wear and tear, and also significantly we need to consider the impact to the community, because the further we go, is the more communities that will be impacted to and fro in terms of the haulage route. So based on those factors, we think that this site was ideal, and thankfully, thanks be to God, it has the perfect material for us. Of course, Mr. Libla, we can subsequently explore in detail in terms of the hydrogeological studies and and the geotechnical studies done in terms of the sedimentation ponds. But as we know, very straightforward in terms of civil engineering work. So at any time we can to discuss these in an appropriate forum. Any of your questions I missed?
I would tend to think so. You said the volume, you need 400,000 cubic meters. That's a minimum of if we speak about 2 meter thick layer of rock, unexpectedly it's a uniform 2 meter thick layer, and let's assume that it's pretty much close to the surface, as you assume that we don't have to go deep. I would tell you in Collio they're going close to 100 meters in some cases, and that's quarry. That's 20 hectares. I multiply it by 2.25. That gives you how much, Mr. Benoit?
Let me just say
I'm speaking about the acreage that you have to destroy.
You know what I said? I said that the entire Dominica International Airport project necessitates an approximate volume of 400,000 cubic meters. This is not something that I can express without details and without advice from the contractor, which I had also advised. We're willing to sit and to meet to have those details. Remember, I'm responsible for environment, social, health and safety, in which I will have these details, but I cannot be expected to produce that detail right here. But definitely, subsequent we can meet and I can give you those details. Okay?
Hello, everyone. Actually, no, it's to you I also want to speak with. Janelle Brisbane here. I am an interdisciplinary ecologist, a PhD student. First of all, I just want to clarify that according to the laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica under our Physical Planning Act, quarrying, it comes under mining. The law defines mining, including the taking of stones, and there are such things as shallow pit open mines. You know, a simple search could be able to tell that to the public, so please let us not misrepresent information here. What I would like to ask is, especially to the Ministry of Environment and to my forestry colleagues, as once being a part of the Ministry of Environment, again, the official maps of the Commonwealth of Dominica have clearly expressed that this area has already encroached on the northern, which is, you know, public information. And before I get further into this, I want to, you know, say thank you to the Minister for your pledge to speaking with the members of the public, especially the scientific authority, and for, you know, keeping it as scientific and factual as possible, for your pledge to, especially our constitutional rights to access to information and sharing of information, especially with the ratification of the Escazú Agreement in 2024, which gives the public the right, the basic human right to access this information for to be part of public consultation prior to the commencement of this work and to seek out. Thank you for your continued pledge to the general Dominican people, but also to our shared Kalinago ancestors. I would like to know, because this area has already encroached, one of your mitigation strategies speaks about the buffer zone to the Northern Forest Reserve and that we are bordering, but the official maps already show that we have taken up forest cover within the Northern Forest Reserve. So if that is the case, which the official maps show and the markings on the ground also show, then we have already gone against the mitigation strategy for a 50-meter buffer zone because we are already inside the park. So in that case, what are you all planning to do with that information? How are you planning on bringing back that 50-meter buffer zone?
Good morning again. So with the slight encroachment that has already happened, the division has stopped the developers, and we have the buffer zone, including the 50 meters, and then the area that is already encroached, we're going to reforest the area. So we did an assessment, and in total, there's going to be and we intend to replant for trees that were existing. So we're going to use, I think, the blue maho, because we introduced blue maho here in the beginning. Wild maho itself and other species. So we already did the assessment of the area, and we intend to reforest the area.
Scientific advice, I would actually advise against blue maho. Please, I would keep this as native species as possible. Our Gary Ogris, who's here with me today, his master's research showed that this is actually the fourth densest valley for our parrots. So it's especially important that we plant as many food sources, and that would draw the attention away from the neighboring farms, because this is actually forcing wildlife onto neighboring farms and creating human-wildlife conflict. Wait, before you go into that, because I have another question. Have encroached in this area, am I right to assume that Montreal Management and CR5, or whoever is responsible, never approached the Ministry of Environment or the forest? Half of the 160 acres is within the Northern Forest Reserve, and knowing forestry from my first-hand experience, y'all would have never such of a project to take out so many acres, or the ministry, within this area. So my follow-up question to that is, did y'all give approval for this site to be within our Northern Forest Reserve to take out so much of our protected lands?
Employed the first up to about a year ago, right? And was one of our young talents, and I respect her professional work in this matter. As I said, the Forestry Division has always had wonderful work. The strong points of the Forestry Division is that participatory forest management, and that's something themselves to be able to do all the work. So we've always, a lot of people call us about when they have wildlife. We can't be everywhere. So when there's infringement, somebody probably, have, illegal wildlife or illegal. In terms of as was mentioned there by the press secretary, the Prime Minister himself alluded to the fact he came on site out of some certain concerns, and he was in fact concerned that certain activities were probably not going as it should have, right? Taking that form, and we were self. And since then, that's why the project was actually put on pause for us to be able to look at some of these issues and deal with it. We actually stopped to get the land and surveys to look at some of because we had, as you rightfully said, some conflict in terms of some of the original boundary markers. So in a sense, that actually put mitigation measures, and I can tell you that since the last visit of the Prime Minister, every single week. The forestry division has been there. Report and our ministry shared with other departments, showing exactly what is being done. If we see that anything is not being done according to the plan, we immediately stop these people and tell them, hey, we have to continue with this. All right? I mean, those of us who build private houses, those private homes, we know that sometimes the physical planning division, sometimes we get an approved plan and then, you know, cut a little bit on somebody's land and then you have all these different things and so on and then you have to try to amicably resolve it. So that is where we are right now in that process. All right? So the forestry division is doing its part and all the other government entities. What rightfully said, I think Mr. Libla mentioned that he's willing to come on board. You know me very well because Ms. Brisbane was someone from since her high school time at the Convent High School from Titford. When she came back, you know, there was not even you know, an official position. I put her in a position just to get her because I really wanted to get talent, that type of level of talent on board. Mr. Degree with the University of the West Indies, again through direct cooperation with the Forestry Division, he was working with us. So we are for that type of interaction and we're very happy for it. What I don't like sometimes is that when there's not that type of engagement and then people, and that is my personal perspective on things, and I really look forward to working with everybody. We have an open, as the minister said, we have an open door policy. Anybody can walk into my office and I open my door for them. I myself don't consider myself for any expert on any matter by myself. All of us have our strong points and our negative points. And it's the coming together of the minds that we can able to bet. You know, my door, we might have had our little thing in between us and everything else, but my door is always open. All right? We can come in, we can discuss. As you mentioned, some of the species, we can have some interaction into that, but there. We're on the side and ensuring that.
All right. But we'll end there.
No, one more question.
He's good. No, hold on, no. You have to.
Like when you spoke to the wildlife, right? And the intention between the Ministry of Environment and the developer at the end of the lifespan of the quarry is to reforest the area in agroforestry site. So we'll use that as an agroforestry site. After bring back the soil, we'll plant in breadnut, breadfruit, penny piece amongst the other forest species, which would be for the.
Just one more question. Sorry. Given the area that if you were to respect the buffer zone and the protected lands, given that area, it's going to be a very minor piece of you being able to achieve the quantity of stones that is needed for this airport. They also claim that this has better stone than Crapo Hall, but our geological reports reveal elsewise. We would absolutely love all the members of the public to be able to see the geotechnical reports that would be able to speak to the site. Be public information, it should also be with physical planning. But speaking of the authorities, you know, stepping in and taking control of this site, it is our understanding from first-hand on this site, because this site has no permission from physical planning. So, Mr. Benoit, you had mentioned earlier that you are keeping with international standards, and you did say if the site were approved, but international standards requires you to have permission before this large-scale destruction is done. So my question is, what approval do you currently permission?
As has been, thank you for your question, and if I don't respond to any component of it, then you can just reiterate. Okay, this is the last question from what I understand. The project was proposed in April, and in April of this year, there was a visit on the 17th of April department and the key stakeholders, in which every stakeholder was sensitized as to the need for the project, its rationale, all of the details. At that point, the developer and contractor sought confirmation as to whether or not the site was indeed within any protected area, reserve, etc., etc. As has been an encroachment, and that has been addressed. However, from the onset, the intention has never been to encroach, has never been to go beyond the limits. Just to explain to the general public, that this area where we are presently, boundary, this site consists of several lots, the government subdivision, and the boundary is actually higher up along the ridge. Okay, so just to make that distinction. In terms of to conduct the necessary geotechnical tests, to get details required to plan the site, even for example to construct the retaining wall, etc. Okay, and to do the baseline, I will inform the public. I can respect that you see a significant impact to the physical landscape, but in terms of the phases of a project, this project is not yet in its construction phase. The simple thing that will confirm that to everybody is that if it is actually approved and the actual construction phase begins, the volume of works and the potential risk and impact, it will be far more significant than what we are presently facing. However, keeping with all of the other project stakeholders, the mindset is to have the mitigation measures in place and well in place, okay, as we go along. We got access to the site, and we immediately started work on the environmental and social impact assessment, which took several months. Forestry division to do the initial assessment on the flora and fauna. You also and make sure there are no species of economic importance that need to be extracted. You also need to work with the police department to do the traffic surveys, to position all of the safety signs that you see along the roadway. That was based on visits conducted with inspectors of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force well before June or July or any excavation started here. So the mindset from the onset has always been to plan in keeping commensurate with the potential impact on the environment. At the time that the project was stopped, the contractor was already prepared and in position to do the stakeholders, and the general public is the key stakeholder. So whenever there is a recommendation, as I've said to all colleagues, please let us have do is develop plans in the inappropriate forum. For example, we cannot sit here today and come up with any, serious constructive plans or do engineering calculations in the appropriate forum and have a constructive discussion in terms of how we can continue to mitigate the measures. So the project has not been commenced. This is not the construction phase of the project, but rest assured that what we're hoping to do is to demonstrate that by the time, if the project is approved, we have the capacity, the wherewithal to mitigate against any significant impact to the social or the natural.
Yes, special good morning to everyone and to all the viewers via the various media houses. I'm really happy to be here today to be part of it. Somebody had to show me who Benoit is, because that's the first time I'm actually seeing him in person, and I honestly feel that it's quite disappointing for such a major project like this having so much impact on the indigenous community. So I'm here today to represent the voice of my people. I'm not a community. I've been listening and I've been following, and I heard that there has been an environmental social impact study. The first question I have to ask is, assessed. Was it part of that assessment? Because first of all, as indigenous people, we are governed by laws and rules, and one of the things is free, prior, and informed consent. And know our community or the impact it would have on that community. The second question I have is, we're talking about the best rocks, and to think and to reason. We have been building Guadeloupe. Guadeloupe and Martinique import the stones and the rocks here from Dominica, and they've literally built their country to build an airport. So the question is, can you make available to us? Because when I came here, I was expecting three things. I asked the Prime Minister yesterday when I met with him and his team for three things. One, the environmental social impact study, that we need to have a copy of it. Secondly, we need to have the confirmation letter from the only area you can get the best rocks. So we need this information in order to be able to work with you. And we also need to have consultation. It's really, this, like I said, to be here the first time having a conversation on the media about this. this whole project. There are several times I tried to bring it up. I know the PS came to my and opened our policy, but nobody reached out to us, and we haven't seen him, or he never reached out to talk to us about this project. So I'm hoping that, going forward for the indigenous people, about the impact it's having. It's not no emotional story here. We have people who use the river every day and they can no longer use the river. It's itching their skin, so there's a impact it's going to have. So I want to know the health impact it's going to have on the community. There are areas within the territory that have land slippage. In Mahod River and Salibia, people had to evacuate certain areas to be able to move, to be why it's so important we are able to get the environmental and social impact study, particularly to do with the Kalinago territory. So thank you.
Thank you very much. However, on the issue of consultation, the Prime Minister has stated repeatedly that he is open to speaking with the various stakeholders, and he has also said very openly that he's from the various stakeholders who have an interest in this project and who have an interest in making representation on behalf of the public. So on that part, in terms of meeting with the stakeholders, meeting with interest groups, having a conversation, the Prime Minister has said repeatedly that he is open to that. So I will let the Honourable Minister close off. And
thank you very much, everyone here, for being part of this conversation. I think it's an important, healthy conversation to have. For being across the border into the national space to look at national issues. That's why I'm a Minister of Environment for the country, because I think in national space I have a lot, and so I hope in chief we can address the internal problems before we cross the borders and get into the national space. And also it's important. Before, but importantly, just trying to rationalize this entire movement here. We have a national project. We have a site that has the material to transport material from the west coast. The number of communities is going to affect. The road network will be destroyed as well. The infrastructure that is being built. But we don't have to go to university and stuff. But I think it's also important that even driving a truck through the Kalinago space when we did the East Coast Road, it affected a number of communities. So this close proximity of that quarry to the airport project will help, because there will be less communities that will be affected. But just to finally say that we're on top of this, the Ministry of Environment, we are doing the best with the science that we have to ensure that the developer and the will do the best practices. We'll continue to monitor. This is a firm commitment from me as the Minister, and I want to thank the staff who've been out here every week, Mr. Felix and Mr. Paul and the other staff who are here, because I think they are taking this work very seriously, and I want to commend them and the director for continuing to help us to protect the assets that we have as a country. And while we do protect our assets, we do it in a manner that we can also develop our country moving forward. So I want to thank you guys for being here this morning. We'll be here every week, monitoring and ensuring that we play our part. And so you're also invited to come in every week if you have the time and energy, and to be part of this conversation as we continue to ensure that the responsibility we have as a government to ensure the assets that we have from nature, we can put it into best practice. Thank you very much.
That's it from our end here. At the right to be for the international airport. Well, Simeon, we heard it there from the minister. We heard for consultation, town hall meetings, and the Prime Minister did mention. So it's people now to show the interest, because some of the things, questions that were raised, I think. work for the government, you meet with the Ministry of Environment. If you in the Kalinago territory, then you go to the office of the minister and you'll have a talk on other things. But I think it was handled well by the office of the Prime Minister here, and I think the media too, because we, the members of the media, we have a role to play, and it's important that we bring out the best information possible. And I think they explained over and over, if you notice, reiterated some of the information, and it's just a work in progress.
Yeah, I have to say, Steve, that I am pleased to know that a lot of mitigation measures are being taken. I mean, I was looking forward to more questions coming from those who have been advocating against the quarry being there. It is rather unfortunate. They want to know how much rocks there will be. Their concerns were, oh, our river will be dirty, that will affect our river, mud on the road, and these were the things they were raising. Today we can see that they have put a pit there for the purpose of washing the tires to make sure that the vehicles don't go in the road with mud. They have set up several sediment points where to ensure that the fine sand or whatever it is don't go into the river. They can clear that up and dispose of it elsewhere. It is similar to what P.H. Williams has done in Kenfield. You know, they are mining, they are quarrying, but they have sediment points where all of the sediments don't go into the river or into the sea. They are controlling that now. So I think that I am satisfied that you know, a lot of corrective measures are being taken to make sure that, you know, we don't destroy the environment. And as I've said to some of my friends, I mean, what is 4, 5, 6 acres for the environment? And people have to ask.
It's not in the city, in the capital.
Right. No. No, we were faced with. People ask, oh, what has been done? We dealing with an emergency situation. First, the plan was to originally get all the material from the current site they are using, which is the very site in which Mr. Edison James, as a Prime Minister, was applied to the Aid Bank for a loan to build in order to finance the airport that Europe was going to build. Now that the site is raw material, they have taken a decision to go to the court, the UWP leader, former leader, to go to the court to ask the court to. But the court say we can shut it down, so they have minimized the number of hours they operated. That put pressure now on the government, on the company, to develop a new site as we are doing now, with an emergency, in an emergency situation. Land and Survey, all of the government apparatus came together to decide on where would be suitable, and they have advised the government that this is a suitable site. Those who are saying that, oh, there is no planning approval, there is no this, there is no that, all of the apparatus of the government which you have to apply to for approval was involved in saying that this site is appropriate. That is the reason why the ongoing work is now taking place here. So at the why don't you take the material from West Coast? The truth about it is, the cost aspect of bringing the material from this area to this site is part of what is being, you know, longer span of heavy equipment driving on the road. You know, so it's a shorter run. You have less damage to the road because you have less heavy vehicles passing on it, and at the same time, it look like you're going to take the. I can bet you when we will
back very quickly here.
When we will come here and look at this area 2 years after, we'll be surprised to see that they hardly touch the mountain. Because take Point Michel Cliff, for example, mining has been going on there for how many generations? It's still there. Look at where we are in Pokase. In Pokase, there was a time they were quarreling about Pokase, saying that Pokase, oh, is encroaching on this and encroaching on that, and we have to stop that, and they tried. How many years has passed? And the entire road from Boadiab going all the way into the Kainago territory was built from the raw material coming from the Pokase pit. And up to now, it has not caused any harm to the environment, no harm to the rivers, no harm to any private residents or anybody. Here, we don't have residents living around there. So the issue of the river, I believe those who are there today are satisfied that the river is not an issue, because as you can realize, they didn't raise it as a serious concern today, even though it's raining, and you see the water clear around there. So I am happy that all the work that is ongoing there is addressing some of the concerns that they have, while at the same time making sure that we meet the expectation of building the airport, because we have one shot at it now. Time is of essence, and I tell the very people who are here protesting, if you all had come out and protest against Edison James going to court with the quarry, we would not have to be here today. But none of them have said a word about what happened over there, but they are coming here, and I believe 3/4 or 90% of the people that are talking there are speaking from their mind without understanding what is at play. And you can see with the little explanation that was given there today that the question that came, that largely most of them seem to have a better understanding. So I hope after today's meeting, people will not just be going on the road and making videos and running their mouth like as if all of a sudden stop the quarry, stop the project, but rather meet with the government officials if they feel they have a concern, ask a question, get what is going on there, and I'm sure they'll be more contented at the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Simeon. You'll hear more from Simeon and Clarence, of course, on Cairo FM's talk show tonight.